Hi, this is Kendall Boyson, professional life and recovery coach, and you're listening to Encouragementology, the practice of instilling hope. Hi there. Thanks for joining me. On this show, we are exploring the power of habit as we aim to create and sustain positive behaviors. Habits, those sneaky little routines that either keep us on track or derail us faster than a spilled cup of coffee on a Monday morning. Whether it's hitting snooze one too many times, grabbing that extra cookie you swore you wouldn't, or finally nailing a consistent workout routine, habits shape our lives more than we realize. But there's good news. Habits aren't just hardwired. They can be rewired. So let's dive deep into what makes habits stick, why they're so stubborn, and how we can transform even the tiniest shifts into life-changing routines. Think of it like building a house. You don't lay the roof first. You start with one solid brick at a time. The same goes for habits. Small, intentional changes can lead to extraordinary growth. So get ready to reflect and uncover a habit or two you didn't even know you had. Let's crack the code to better routines and a better you. First, let's define what a habit is and how it's formed. A habit is a routine of behavior that is repeated regularly and tends to occur subconsciously. According to Psychology Today, habit formation is the process by which behaviors become automatic through repetition. This process involves a step 3 pattern known as the habit loop: cue, routine, and reward. The cue triggers the behavior, the routine is the behavior itself, and the reward is the benefit you gain from doing the behavior which reinforces the habit. In my exploration of habits, I came across an insightful article titled "The Science of Habit: How to Rewire Your Brain" from Healthline. This article delves into the brain's role in habit formation, explaining that habits are formed through a process called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. It emphasizes that by consciously repeating a new behavior, we can create new neural pathways, making the behavior more automatic over time. This understanding is crucial for anyone looking to replace bad habits with good ones, as it highlights the importance of consistency and patience in the process. When the new year rolls around, 44% of people in the United States typically make resolutions. Whether to improve our fitness, our mental health, to eat better, or to spend less time on TikTok, by and large, we're inspired by the fresh start January brings, ready to be better, smarter, fitter, faster versions of ourselves. And nearly half of us fail. Why? Because most of us aren't practicing self-directed neuroplasticity, according to the experts. Self-directed neuroplasticity is when you intentionally rewire your brain to create positive habits. People do this primarily through active reflection. Yes, the term is a mouthful, but it's also a powerful science-based method to break undesirable habits and create new, healthy ones. The concept was first defined by researcher Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz, and then popularized by Dr. Rick Hansen, a psychologist and senior fellow at UC Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center, and author of Hardwiring Happiness. Self-directed neuroplasticity is different from experience-dependent neuroplasticity, a passive process in which we reinforce habits by doing them unconsciously over and over again, whether they're good or bad. You can use this method to train your brain to stick with habits for the long haul. Sound too good to be true? As we've already established, habits are routines or rituals that are unconscious or that have become almost automatic or second nature. A habit is a practice you repeat so regularly that it can be hard to change. This could be biting your nails when you're worried, picking up a bottle of wine whenever you pass the liquor store, or cracking open a bag of chips while watching TV at the end of the day. A habit might even be unconscious, like jiggling your leg while you're on a flight or licking your lips when you're forced to do some public speaking. But where do habits come from? Your sensory nervous system is always monitoring for actions you can take that will deliver a hit of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. We're wired to seek out pleasure. Any habit we develop is because our brain is designed to pick up on things that reward us and punish us. When your brain recognizes a pattern, like a connection between action and satisfaction, it files that information away neatly in an area of the brain called the basal ganglia. This is also where we develop emotions and memories, but it's not where conscious decisions are made. That's the prefrontal cortex. This may be what makes habits so hard to break. They come from a brain region that's out of our conscious control, so you're barely aware you're doing them, if at all. In the early days of humankind, this was beneficial. The reward center of our brains was a survival tool that helped us seek out the things we needed to survive, like comfort and calories, and to avoid discomfort. In a modern world, though, the constant search for feel-good experiences can drive us in some less than helpful directions. Just because something feels good in the moment, that doesn't mean it's good for our long-term happiness, health, longevity, social relationships, or mental wellness. And just because something is uncomfortable, that doesn't mean it's dangerous. Just like in our ancestors, our brains chase that dopamine high. So when a behavior comes along that results in a reward, the brain builds a connection between the behavior and pleasure that can be hard to shake. This link of cue, action, and reward is how a habit is born. Habits are actions that are triggered by cues, like a time of the day, or an activity, or a location. They culminate in a feel-good reward that through repetition fuses the connection between cue and reward firmly in the brain. Psychologists at MIT made a landmark discovery in 1999 of a cue, routine, reward feedback loop that journalist Charles Duhigg later coined the habit loop in his 2012 book, The Power of Habit. Here's how the habit loop works. Cue. You experience a stimulus, a trigger. It could be being in a certain location, smelling a certain smell, seeing a certain person, or feeling a particular emotional state, among many other possibilities. This creates a craving. The stimulus causes you to desire a particular outcome that you find rewarding. It motivates you to act. Response. You engage in behaviors, thoughts, or actions you take to get that outcome. Reward. The outcome occurs and you feel a sense of reward as a result, satisfying your craving. The pleasure or relief you experience reinforces the cue, making the cue even better at triggering cravings next time. That's why it's an endless loop. Here's an example of how the habit loop can lead to undesirable habits. You might hit a wall with creative work or school project and crave a break from the hard mental work. You step outside for a cigarette, both relieving yourself from an uncomfortable situation and giving yourself a nicotine boost. Over time, feeling stuck at work will start to trigger you to reach for cigarettes. Or that relief might come from something less obviously addictive, scrolling social media. Sound familiar? The habit loop often happens subconsciously and can perpetuate not so good for us behavior. But we can also use these principles of cue and reward to intentionally cultivate habits with outcomes we want. So here's an example of a habit loop leading to beneficial results. You hit a wall with a project and crave a break from the hard mental work. You step outside for a walk, relieving yourself from an uncomfortable situation and getting some exercise. Or maybe you start using audio for breaks, putting on a podcast, book, or music. Over time, feeling stuck at work will start to trigger you to go for walks or to close your eyes and listen to something relaxing. One smart option is to connect good habits like exercising more with a more immediate reward. For instance, listening to new episodes of your favorite podcast only when you go for walks. Another option is to tap into the magic of mindfulness. At the core of rewiring habits is reflection. It's a pillar of cognitive behavioral therapy, which basically works like this. Try new things and pay attention to how they make you feel. The second part is absolutely key. It's the best hack for changing preset behaviors. To practice it at home is straightforward. Reflect on how unhealthy behaviors make you feel bad and how healthy behaviors make you feel good. Then write it down. Then talk to somebody about it. Then reread what you've written a month down the road. When you see the data that you've done, what you said you would do, you develop a belief in yourself. This comes from Catherine Roscoe-Barr. She's a Vancouver-based wellness coach with a background in neuropsychology who has successfully used neuroplasticity to adopt positive fitness and nutrition habits. You can use the mind to change your physical brain and hardwire that belief in, she says. Importantly, for actions that have more long-term benefits, it's important to take time out to celebrate the short-term benefits. Yes, over time, eating nutrient-rich foods will probably increase your energy and focus, and maybe even create a stronger physique. But the brain has a tough time sticking with something if it doesn't see immediate results. That's why journaling soon after an activity is important to fuse feelings with action. I'm proud I made that choice. Or I was more energetic after lunch. These are positive feelings you might have after picking up a kale salad over a cheeseburger. It's vital to take a moment to acknowledge those so your brain can learn to crave that connection next time lunch rolls around. Barr suggests regularly going back and reading the past few weeks and months of your journal or notes so that you can truly see the data in action. When you see the data, you know that it works, and it convinces your brain through your own words and your own writing that yes, indeed, this is really powerful. Of course, journaling isn't a magic cure-all for breaking an unhelpful habit or motivating yourself to adopt a new habit. Here are more science-backed techniques that can help you make your habit hacking more likely to succeed. Say your goal out loud. Positive affirmations may have a woo-woo reputation, but saying your goals out loud to yourself does actually make you more likely to do them, and it may increase your sense of self-worth too, according to research. Dr. Tom Cannon is a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. He says that when people have undergone brain scans while saying positive affirmations, the brain lights up like a Christmas tree. Your brain truly wants to believe everything you're saying. So say it. Swap a new habit for an old one. Instead of going cold turkey, it's far more effective to start replacing or adjusting small parts of the habituated action. If you always sit down with a glass of scotch at 6 p.m., for instance, keep the time and the glassware, but swap out the booze for juice. It'll make it much easier to decouple the alcohol from the habit, And then you can work on replacing this habituated action with something different. Aim small to start. There's nothing wrong with big, audacious goals, of course, but there needs to be smaller, bite-sized achievements along the way. Accomplishing even a tiny goal can offer enough of a dopamine kick to reinforce behavior and boost you to the next step. You don't have to commit to going for a certain amount of time. It's just about getting over the initial hump. You can start building on it later. Once you have your bite-sized habit ingrained, say committing to meditating, starting with the goal of 1 minute a day, it's easy to expand or contract as you need. Add on to an existing routine. Habit stacking, as popularized by James Clear in his book Automatic Habits, takes the mini habit idea one step further. Take a habit you already practice and add on one little positive thing to your routine, like doing calf raises while you brush your teeth. If you take a snack break at 11 every day, why not walk around the block at the same time? Banish the all or nothing mentality. Remember, anything is better than nothing. Would working out in the gym for an hour every day, 5 days a week be ideal? Maybe. But making that your only definition of success only makes getting active that much more intimidating. Everybody can find 15 minutes in their day. That's 1% of your day. And once you've developed the habit of moving for 15 minutes a day, it's far easier to go a little longer. Create a plan that plays to your strengths. Work with nature. If you're a visual or spatial person, build new habits around the format that works best for you. If you want to take up meditating, for instance, and the audio apps aren't working for you, seek out a program with visual guidance instead. If your goal is to read a book a week, but you're having trouble sitting still and focusing on your novel, download the audiobook and read while you stroll your neighborhood. Change your language. Metacognition is thinking about the way we think, including how we use language. If the way you talk about exercise is, I hate it, it's hard, it hurts, then you're probably not going to crave that experience. Reframing it as something positive that makes you feel powerful and happy, even if it is challenging, is going to help compel you to get moving. Even if you don't believe it at first, faking it until you make it may wire neurons together to eventually create a genuine reaction you were forcing at first. Smiling, even when you don't mean it, can actually make you happy, at least to a small degree, according to research from 2017. Visualize success. As any sports psychologist can tell you, visualization is an incredible tool for reaching your goals. Even if your goal is to run 1 mile without stopping, rather than win the Boston Marathon, it can have an impact. Studies show that whether you're thinking about running or actually running, similar neurons are firing in your brain. And creating those feel-good pathways with visualization can help motivate you to get up and actually lace up your shoes. Set up the right cues in your environment. A 2018 review of research found that environmental pressures can be more powerful than simply willing yourself to achieve a goal. In other words, change your environment, change your habits. So if you want to create a new habit like be more mindful, instead of trying to achieve it with sheer willpower, create a tangible cue to link it to. For instance, you could leave a pen and gratitude journal on your bedside table. Then, every night before you go to bed, you'll see it, pick it up, and write down what you're grateful for. The point is, you may be more likely to maintain this habit when you're prompted by seeing the journal, compared to just having the goal in mind. help you make diet changes too. That's why many nutritionalists recommend strategically stocking your kitchen so that healthy snacks are ready available on the counter or in the cupboards, while less nutritious food are less visible. In doing this, you're actively changing your environment, making it much easier to avoid cues for habits you want to break, like seeing the cookie jar, and incorporating cues into your environment for habits you want to make, like grabbing an apple. Give yourself a break. Whether you're trying to build a new positive habit or shake an old one, patience is vital. Yes, there are people out there who can just go cold turkey with a negative habit, but the reality is they're very rare. The Center of Disease Control and Prevention reports that most people who smoke try to quit smoking 8 to 11 times before they break the habit for good. Be kind to yourself as you try to break a pattern. Falling back into a habit doesn't mean you failed. Instead of thinking of yourself as a failure, reframe setbacks as, I didn't succeed that time, but I can still try again. Consistency will come with practice, and so will success. Catherine Roscoe-Barr shares her recommendation for creating positive habits in a 5-part framework to set goals that you can actually stick to. Number 1, discover. Make sure you understand why your goal matters to you. Number 2, diagnose. Identifying friction points or roadblocks and removing them are important. Create boundaries that will help you keep on track. Number 3, prescribe. Figure out your ideal game plan and personalize it to your interests and skills. Want to move more but hate to run? Dance or swim instead. 4, practice. As they say, done is better than perfect. Don't get stuck in an all or nothing mindset for creating new habits. You're not a failure if you aren't going to the gym for an hour each day. Instead, take baby steps. Be flexible and forgiving with yourself. I love the word practice. It's a reminder that it's not about being perfect, it's about doing it. And number 5 in the framework, pause. Reflecting on your efforts and results builds new links in the brain. Why are good habits so hard to start and bad habits so hard to break? I have to admit, I'm a New Year's resolution break or repeat offender. If we were rewarded for good intentions, I would be winning. But sadly, we're not. You have to put forth the effort. I've come to realize that it has to be your goal, not a goal you think you should want because it seems like everyone else wants it. It has to be personal and specific. You have to develop your own why, and it may be different from everyone else's, and that's okay. Now that we understand how habits are formed, let's discuss how to apply this knowledge to foster personal growth. So here are some practical steps. We've already talked about the importance. Identify the cue. Determine what triggers your current habit. Be honest with yourself. Is it an emotional state? Is it a specific time of day? Is it a person? Or is it something else? Change the routine. Replace the undesirable behavior with a positive one. We've mentioned instead of grabbing a snack, go for a walk. How else can you shake that up? Reward yourself. Ensure that your new behavior provides a reward, whether it's a sense of accomplishment, relaxation, or something tangible. Be consistent, and this could be the hardest part. Repeat the new behavior consistently in the same context to straighten the new habit loop. And be patient. Remember, research suggests that it takes an average of 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic, though this can vary from person to person. So take your time because this is a process. Maybe you aren't ready to admit your habits, or You haven't come to terms with whether they are truly good or truly bad. Ready for a reality check? Let's play a little game. The Habit Inventory Challenge. Are you ready? First of all, let's grab a notebook and a timer. Maybe you don't want to time yourself this first time. We're just kind of getting it down. But grab a notebook, obviously a pen, and a timer. Now, when you are ready to time yourself, we would set a timer for 10 minutes, okay? And list as many of your daily habits as you can think about. Remember, some of those are going to be automatic, and it's really going to take you digging in and thinking about every step of your day. Think about your mornings, your work routines, your meals. What happens in the evening? What happens on your breaks? Nothing is too small or too mundane. So write it all down. Like, I check my phone before getting out of the bed, or I eat chocolate after lunch. I'm not admitting to that. That's not necessarily mine, just so you know. Okay, number 2, you're going to sort your habits, okay? The good, the bad, and the meh. You're not really sure yet, right? So use 3 different maybe colored markers or pens or emojis if you're into digital, whatever you want to do, to go through your list. Now be honest with yourself, right? Just because you like it doesn't mean it's a good habit, okay? So let's maybe define those. Good habits. These make you feel proud, productive, or healthier, like stretching every morning. Okay? Maybe give that a nice little star. Okay? Then you got your bad habits. These drain your energy. They can cause guilt, or they can lead you away from your goals, like doom scrolling before bed, right? Or maybe taking a glass of wine to bed. Not good. Maybe put a little asterisk beside those. Maybe something that looks like caution. Then you've got your neutral habits. These neither help nor harm, but they may have potential for improvement, like watching TV while eating dinner. That's something that you could change. Now, we're going to play detective. We're going to find the triggers. So look at each habit and ask, what usually triggers this? Is it a specific time of the day, like part of your morning routine or something that you do right after work? Is it an emotion? Is it being sleepy and tired, or being overly stimulated, or being sad? Or is it an activity? Something you do on your walk, or something you do when you walk out the door. For example, you may discover you snack every afternoon because you're bored, not hungry. So write the trigger next to the habit. Now you're going to rate their impact. For extra insight, give each habit a score from 1 to 5 on how much it impacts your life, positively or negatively. So for example, journaling every night. This could be +5 because it helps you sleep better and it makes you feel less stressed. Conversely, hitting snooze 5 times. This could be a -4 because it makes you late and it makes you feel groggy. So go through each one of your habits and talk about their impact. Rate the impact. Now, imagine life without them. Pick a habit or 2 from each category and imagine your life without them. What would you change if you quit your bad habit? What might improve if you doubled down on a good one? There's a lot to think about that. Now, create your habit plan. Decide on one habit you'd like to ditch or upgrade and one you'd like to nurture or start. Give them fun names to stay motivated, like Project Morning Energizer or Operation No Snooze Button. However you can do it to make it part of the game. Sometimes this kind of work just feels so heavy, we end up procrastinating. We know deep down in our soul that we have something we need to change. And we're going to get to it. Relax, quit talking about it, put it on the back burner. It'll happen eventually when I have time. You can see that procrastination loop can go on and on and on. How can we break that? I remember Mel Robbins saying one time about working out, if you're waiting to feel motivated, it's never going to happen. You just have to take action and do it. You can't wait for that motivation. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to go to the gym today. Now, I have heard people say that. I think they're alien. I'm not really sure how they say that and how they feel that, but that's the deal. Don't wait. Just take action and make it fun. If you make something fun, think of it as a game. Reward yourself for discovering habits you want to change or celebrating small victories when you spot a good habit. Add humor and curiosity to the process because it's not about perfection. Remember, it's progress. And it doesn't start unless you take a step in that direction. So whether you want to tie it to an event like a New Year's resolution, or you just want to put it down on your goals list, put it at the top because procrastination will move it further and further down the list. And all or nothing thinking can really interrupt this type of behavior because in that state of mind, when you make one mistake, you toss the towel in on everything. So maybe it's about walking and you start out Monday and you didn't go for your walk for whatever reason. Well, I didn't go for my walk. Let me start next Monday. Why would you do that to yourself? Why couldn't you start on Tuesday? But many of us can do that. Same thing with diets. Oh, I had a cookie. I guess I'll eat all weekend. So remember that you are going to have little hiccups along the way when you're trying to make progress on your habits, but don't throw in the towel. Think about how you can adjust just in that moment. Give yourself a break. Pep yourself up by saying, hey, you know what? It was a small mistake. It's not going to derail my progress. I'm going to get back on track. I'll try again in an hour or tomorrow. I'm not going to wait another week. I'm not going to wait another year. So take it seriously. Take a step today. Set some realistic goals. Look at them. And one of the things I know I've mentioned it before that I like to do is set your goals, but also rehash what you did the year before. Really take some time to map out all that you've already accomplished. This can give you such motivation for going into new goal setting where you might be adding some new habits, changing some old behaviors. It's a great time to do that. So before you just always chase the carrot, double check what you've already done. Pat yourself on the back for all the awesome things you've already accomplished. Make sure you're really detailed too. It doesn't have to be big things like paying off the house. It could be simple little things. Remember that trip we went on? It was unexpected. We didn't know we were going to go and we went and it was so much fun. Write those things down. It's really, really important for your mental health and well-being. I want to end with some uplifting inspiration. On the Motivation Arcs YouTube channel, I found a motivational speech by James Clear. Remember him? We've already talked about him a bit. He's the author of Automatic Habits, which in a nutshell teaches that changes that seem small and unimportant at first will compound into remarkable results if you're willing to stick with them for years. Make that commitment. You deserve it. Let's take a listen.
Your outcomes in life are often a lagging measure of your habits. We think the thing that needs to change is the bank account or the test score or the number on the scale, but actually the thing that needs to change are the habits that precede those outcomes. Rather than making the goal the default, the thing that you focus on almost exclusively, let's make the system the default and then only check in on the goal occasionally to see if we're moving in the right direction. Achieving a goal only changes your life for the moment. It's actually not the thing that you're looking for. We think the results are the thing that needs to change, but it's actually the process behind the results. Like, if you have a messy room, let's say your bedroom is a mess, and you set a goal to clean that room, you can get motivated and do it for 2 or 3 hours, and then you turn around and you have a clean room for now. If you don't change the messy habits that led to a dirty room in the first place, then you turn around 2 weeks later and you have a messy room again. And so actually you don't need a clean room, you need better cleaning habits, and then your room will always be clean. You don't need to lose weight, you need better eating habits, and then your weight will always be around where you want it to be. You don't need more money, you just need better financial habits, and then you'll always have enough money to manage the thing that comes up. And I think that's one of the reasons why small habits matter so much. They don't necessarily transform your life overnight, right away. Like, doing one push-up does not transform your body, but it does cast a vote for being the type of person who doesn't miss workouts. Or meditating for 1 minute might not give you an immediate sense of calm in your life, but it does cast a vote for being a meditator. The real goal is not to run a marathon, the goal is to become a runner. The goal is not to write a book, the goal is to become a writer. Because once you've adopted that identity, you're really not even pursuing behavior change anymore. You're just kind of acting in alignment with the type of person you already see yourself to be. It's kind of like true behavior change is really identity change. Because once you've changed that internal story, it's way easier to show up each day. You're not even really motivating yourself that much to do it. You're just like, this is who I am now. The technical definition of a habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to be more or less automatic. So things that you can do pretty much without thinking about them. Unplugging your toaster after each use, or tying your shoes, or brushing your teeth. Things that you pretty much just go on autopilot when you do them. Now, we often use the word habit to mean different things than that, and we can get into this more. Like, you might say things like, I want to get in the habit of working out, or I want to get in the habit of writing every day. And I know what you mean when you say that, right? You mean I want to make it a regular practice. I want to make it this daily ritual that I follow. But you're never going to go like on autopilot and forget what you write for an hour, right? Like, it's a more effortful, conscious thing. And so we can talk about some of that distinction, particularly with making habits easy. What you really want to do is make the beginning easy and automatic, and then the rest of the routine can follow naturally, even if you're consciously thinking about it. So that's what a habit is. It's this automatic response. Now, why does the brain build them? What role does it play? Well, as you go through life, you need energy to survive. And this is true not just for humans, but for all organisms need some kind of energy to survive. And getting energy requires energy. You need to eat food to be able to walk around and find the next meal. And using energy is expensive, because the more energy you use, the less you have available for the other things that life throws at you. And so your brain is looking for ways to conserve energy whenever possible. And habits are a great method for doing that. And it makes that whole process of finding energy, solving the problems of life, and getting through things easier. It requires less energy and attention and effort than it did before. I started to realize, similar to what I hinted at a moment or two ago, that both luck and habits play a role in life, but that you have control over your habits. And the funny thing is, we're building them all the time, but a lot of people don't feel like they have control over their habits. They feel like their habits are taking control of them, that they're like a victim of these bad routines. And once you start to dive in a little bit and like uncover the layers and realize what a habit is and how it works, then you start to develop a little more control over it. And I think if we're going to be building habits anyway, then it makes more sense to be able to understand how they work and how to structure them so that you can be the architect of your habits rather than the victim of them. It's not that luck and randomness and uncertainty don't play a role in life. They do. You know, luck is a part of all of our lives to a certain degree, both good fortune and bad. But by definition, you don't have control over luck. And your habits also matter. And I think that the reason they're so worthwhile to focus on and understand is that they are the portion of your life that you can influence that also determines your outcomes. It's not just luck, it's not just habits, but one of those you have control over. And so it makes sense. The only reasonable strategy is to focus on what you can control. If you spend all of your time focusing on things you can't control, then you're just going to end up frustrated. Talent and genes, they play a role, and it's important. People have natural predispositions to things that make them better. But what you find is that nearly always when someone is a great performer in a particular domain, they are both well suited, so naturally talented or have some kind of predisposition to that area, and well trained. And so even if you are talented, you can't succeed without having great habits to execute and to fully realize the potential that you have. A lot of the time people talk about, I want to have more money, or I want to lose weight, or I want some kind of result. But the truth is, your bank account is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning and reading habits. And so it's actually, we think the thing that needs to change is the bank account or the test score or the number on the scale, but actually the thing that needs to change are the habits that precede those outcomes. How do we come to believe things about ourselves? Because when you come into the world as a baby, you don't have any preset beliefs or notions. That's not to say that, again, your genes don't matter. They certainly matter in some sense, like your height might be more or less baked into your DNA. But we all realize that if you grew up in a different culture or a different religion or a different community or household, you could adopt completely different beliefs if that was what you were raised in. And so I was like, well, how does that happen, right? How does this internal story that we tell ourselves, our identity, become shaped and formed? And I realized that it's mostly through the repetition of that story. And so what you come to realize is that your habits reinforce a particular identity. And sometimes this can be positive and sometimes it can be negative. The story could be things like, I'm bad at math, or I'm terrible at remembering people's names, or I'm not good at remembering directions places. Yeah. And all of those that's just an internal story that you tell yourself. But each time you have an experience that reinforces that, the story gets solidified. And so I think the method, the takeaway here is that every action you take is kind of like a vote for the type of person you want to become. And if you can master the right actions, if you can master the right habits, then you can start to cast votes for this new identity, this desired person that you want to be. I should say goals do serve a purpose, right? It's not that they're useless. They are good for setting a sense of direction and clarity, so figuring out where do I direct my attention. And they're good for filtering. And what I mean by that is it's very easy as you go throughout life for people to come to you with a different opportunity, or you find out about a new area that you're interested in, and you start to say yes to things because, oh, this is new and exciting. But if you have a goal, it's much easier to say no to the things that intrude. A goal is focused on the outcome. A system is focused on the process. So it's the series of habits or steps that you take to get to that ultimate goal. There's sort of this like yo-yo effect, right. Like someone trains for a half marathon and then they run the race, and that race motivated them to train for the last 3 or 4 months. And then the race ends and they stop, they take a week off, then a week turns into 2 weeks, then 2 months and so on. And then they turn around like 4 months later and like, man, I haven't ran in months. Like I need to sign up for a new race or something. Because if it's all about the goal, as soon as the goal is achieved, you don't have that motivating you anymore. But if instead it's about being a runner, then even once you finish the race, you still have a reason to show up again the next week because you're like, well, that's what I do is I run. That's who I am.
Right.
And so I think that's a more, in pretty much any domain, true long-term thinking is really goalless thinking. It's much more about being that person, developing that identity, following that system, and then you just happen to realize your potential along the way. It feels insignificant on any day, but then you turn around 10 years later and it's actually, you're surprised by where you end up. And that's a hallmark of any compounding process, that the greatest returns are delayed. And so habits are like that too. They don't feel like much on any given day, but they really add up over the months and years. The cost of your good habits is in the present, and the cost of your bad habits is in the future. And the fact that we prioritize the present over the future ends up making a lot of habit change difficult for that reason.
If you want to share encouragementology with a friend who needs to know they're not alone in this journey of self-discovery, you can visit encouragementology.com or anywhere you stream your content to receive this episode and all others. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram for additional encouragement throughout the week. So I challenge you, identify one habit that has the power to transform your life. Commit wholeheartedly to practicing it every day for the next 30 days, knowing that each small, consistent step rewires your mind and strengthens your foundation for growth. Remember, positive habits are the seeds of lasting change, and every repetition brings you closer to the best version of yourself. I know you can do it. Thank you for listening to Encouragementology with Kendall Boyson, where we find positive ways to handle some of life's challenges.
I stumbled through until the path was clear. That's when I found you and how I